So, guys, thank you so much. Y'all know at this point, it's way past business for me. It's like a really intense friendship. Uh, I share things with you guys that I don't share with anyone other than my wife. So I'm not going to jump into any of that on here, but I think it sets the point that I feel really special. I feel like our relationship is special. I don't feel special. I feel like we're special, if that makes sense. Um, but this particular podcast I refer to as the fire starter, and I kind of like to think of this as the radical transformation podcast. Like, where were you, and where are you now? So the hope and the desire is that someone is going to be super pumped up and inspired, no matter where they are. So, for those that don't know you, why don't we start with you guys introducing yourself? And I would love to hear one of the early stories inside of this introduction. So, Steve, Rachel, whoever wants to go first, and then tell us what the beginning looked like for you two.
You first. The beginning, we could go way back, but the beginning of the growth of our company, uh, every decision that we made was by the seat of our pants. We had the fortune to connect with a good service organization, SGI, that gave
Mm-hmm.
us a pathway to growth. But I still remember learning the importance of recognition for an employee's achievement. And it was a painful lesson, too. I only had two employees at the time. One is now currently my service manager, but at the time he was a green apprentice. So this many years have elapsed. Now he supervises all my other technicians. The other employee was a licensed plumber, and he had wonderful mechanical skills, excellent personal skills. And I remember he had achieved, I think, 487,000 in revenue in his first year that we were tracking that. Update to today, we just returned from San Antonio where the achievements of my men were recognized.
Mm-hmm.
Two of my men were crown champions, so they produced over 500,000. Everyone in the company was there to cheer them on. That's a system of incentivization, recognition, which is a vital part, and reward. And you can't downplay the need for recognition. I had not, I had failed to recognize this employee's achievement as it went across. As a new employer, I thought compensation is enough. And he let me know in no uncertain terms at the end of that year that recognition was due and he needed that praise. He was that kind of person. And most of us need that when we achieve something unexpected. His accomplishment at that time, that was 15 years ago, was outstanding. He was certainly in the top 2 to 3% technicians in America at the time. And yet I worked side by side with him. We would work 12 days on, 2 days off. We would each rotate the on-call responsibility. And one apprentice worked all the time. I don't know when he took any time off. But Don and I rotated that, and he definitely deserved recognition. And I didn't see it and I didn't know it. That was an early, painful reminder that comes fresh to me every time we bring one of our employees up for recognition. So it's a huge expense now. We have a company of 6 technicians, 4 apprentices, warehouse person, 2 office staff, CSRs, a service manager, myself and Rachel. We closed our office to bring them down for recognition at the SGI Expo. That's how important I think recognition is. That cost us tens of thousands of dollars
Mm-hmm.
between the lost revenue, the customers, the salaries that we still paid, compensating our people for the travel. But it all goes back to that experience with one employee and my personal failure to recognize his achievement and give him the pats on the back that he needed. And there should have been a lot more, honestly, but it was eye opening. It's one of those where I was clearly presented with information of my failure and I had to own it. And I still own it today, but obviously I've changed my practices.
Now, you said Don. Was that Don Baum?
Yeah, Don Bond.
How about that? I never met Don, but obviously I'd met his son. So yeah, so that's cool. And I'll tell you what's also fascinating to me, Steve, is I've never met Don, but I know that you thought really highly of Don, and even though I've never met him, obviously, and this I don't think I've ever heard this story of not recognizing Don's achievement. So I seriously doubt Don's listening. I think now that Rachel's on here, I lost a third of my audience, right? But I'm just kidding. We got more than three, maybe four, maybe five. I'm not sure. Um, but I think that also speaks something about you too, which is maybe that's just how you've grown as a leader. Um, uh, Perhaps it's not, but I think it probably is. The fact that you are still remembering this lesson from, your second employee, and now you got Phil, and I have had the opportunity to work with Phil. It's kind of cool to see him come all the way back around. So that's really neat. Um, Rachel, let's go to you. Introduce yourself a little bit and bring us back into the past. Share with the people that are listening kind of what your life, looked like at the start of this, raising two small kids, doing a business, all of that.
Yeah, well, going back to the beginning, it was just Steve and we did everything out of our house. He would take off in the morning and go out on his calls, and I was answering the phones and taking care of two toddlers.
Mm.
And when they went down for their naps, I would go into my office and get as much work done as I possibly could before they woke up. And then it was just juggling kids and a phone, and we didn't dispatch with any kind of fancy software. I just had a appointment book that we carried around with us. So I would take them to preschool. I'd have the phone going. The kids knew that if the phone rang, they had to be quiet. So they've always been really great about that. But it was a traveling show, man. We did everything. I did all the bookkeeping, CSR, dispatch. Just it was a lot. And but it was totally manageable. It was kind of frustrating at times, and we would go to the zoo and I'd be answering the phone and booking calls and taking Steve's calls and just trying to keep the kids with a normal life with a stay-at-home mom who actually worked all the time. But it worked until it just got to be a lot, and we needed to grow in order to keep it going. So after
what was the point when that quit working? Was it something to do with the size of the business, or was it more the age of the kids?
I think it was the business. We just weren't able to produce as much as we needed to really keep ahead. So that's when we joined SGI, which was back in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, we realized we needed to hire employees and hire an apprentice to start. So we hired Phil, and Phil would just come over in the mornings and sit in our kitchen and drink coffee, and then they would take off and go to their jobs. And then I think once we hired Dawn and we had another plumber, then we got an office and things started to move, and we ultimately hired a CSR within probably that first or second year. And so then I was able to split the duties with the CSR, and then it became a little bit more manageable, but I was still doing all the bookkeeping, and it was a lot, but we made it work.
So you guys, Don was a big producer. I'm sure you were as well, Steve. But I don't want to make any assumptions. How many years? Just I want to get a little reference. How many years were you guys in business before 2006 when you brought on Don and then brought on Phil?
We opened up Steve's Plumbing in 1995.
Oh, wow. So you guys were at it for 11 years prior.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What was, and I'm sure it wasn't insignificant, but what was the most that you were able to do by yourself, Steve?
By myself, I recall our final year before joining PSI, our gross was $188,000. And by the time you take out all your expenses and bills and see what your adjusted gross income, I'm sure that our adjusted gross income with that was under $80,000. It just wasn't enough. You could be split so many ways. There were so many problems with being a sole proprietor. As we opened it in 1995, naturally, like everyone, we were underpriced, and we didn't have enough money for marketing and all the usual challenges. Rachel would tell me we need to pay the mortgage, and I'd go out and sell enough for a mortgage. I would take a check from a big job, and I'd say, I have to keep this to purchase a piece of equipment that's essential to the business. And it was literally hand to mouth. But we saw the writing on the wall. that it wasn't going to produce enough revenue to provide for the future of our future life and our two children. And so I realized at the age of 46 that I had to clone myself or find another pathway. And that's when we saw the ad to join a service organization, and we followed that pathway. But yeah, 1995, I had a different vision. I had a relationship with a former employer that was less than satisfactory. So I was licensed. We got the company licensed. We immediately went out. But we had this vision that a sole proprietorship should be able to provide for all of our needs. And unfortunately, in a metropolitan area with high expenses, high cost of living, it just didn't do that. So this paradigm that I had where I could be the local plumber and work all the time, that didn't work out. If you went on vacation, you were losing customers. If you became ill or were injured, and I experienced both, then you lost customers while you recuperated. And then you typically worked with injury or some level of incapacitation. I realized it couldn't go that way. So a lot of things were, a lot of facts were hitting us in the face, smacking our paradigm around. And that's what caused us to change.
That's awesome. Let me show you something. This will crack you up.
There you go.
That's my first year.
Yeah.
See where it all got started was Jimmy Hiller.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was the first client. But that is so ridiculous. That's like year one. It's like, okay. And I think we did like 89,000 if my memory serves correctly. I really wanted 100. Couldn't do it. Yeah, so I've been there. And this was, Shannon wasn't even in the business yet here because, Will had needed 100% attention. But by the third year, Shannon was there, and I know exactly what you're talking about. I've got this video. I don't know if I've ever shown you guys, but it was we're going to go take like family photos, and Willow was not even talking yet. I don't think she had dada, so, and she started talking pretty early. So I bet this was before she was a year old. It may have been just after that. But we're at a JC Penney's, and I'm going to have to show you guys this video. It's the freaking cutest thing. There's a sales rep's desk that was abandoned over there by the photography center. And she crawled up in the desk and she grabbed the calculator and she's punching buttons and she's going, oh, okay, and hangs up the phone. And I'm going, my daughter she's mimicking me. She's over there, and, she's making sales on the phone. It's like, that's a proud moment. I'll have to show you guys that video. But have you ever thought about the fact, I just punched some numbers here, 21 and a half times growth the moment you said, hey, I want to be different. Because you guys, maybe even more than that, you just had your first $250,000 or first $1 million quarter, right?
Right.
And I'm sure that the direction is only going up. So if we assume $4 million from the time that you said, hey, we want things to be different, 21 times growth. As a percentage, what's it like 200? And I don't know what it is. It's a lot. But as a multiplier, it's 21 and a half times growth. That's amazing. And I, as your friend, sit back and I've been to your home. It's lovely. You guys have a condo in Hawaii that you frequent a lot. You got two great kids that are in school at not cheap schools. Life is a little different for you guys right now.
Yes. And life drove it. We had aspirations and we realized the path we're on right now is not going to satisfy those aspirations. I shared with the team this morning that if we really want to improve, we have to make changes. The definition of insanity being expecting change and then doing things the same way you always have been. So we knew we had to change and we faced it. Change is uncomfortable, and we've been uncomfortable for 15 years now. We're literally uncomfortable. And we realize that the moment that we feel comfortable, we need to do something else. We need to add, we need to improve, refine, take a risk. And we've continued to do that. I can say that we've never rested on those laurels. It's a discomfort zone, and we're determined to press it. I don't know what the end is, but we're
was
still
about
in
to
the
ask. Have you guys started? I mean, I know, uh, and just try to keep this as confidential as I can, but I know at one point you guys had an offer for your business and you didn't do it, which means your future, you weren't ready to kick back for whatever reason you didn't do it. But at some point, every business owner exits their business. They have to, whether it's on purpose or life happens. Have you guys started thinking about that? Um, like when does that occur? What must be true in order for that day to happen for y'all? Have y'all put any deep thought to that yet?
Yes,
Yeah.
we have.
Is it shareable or is it not shareable?
I think it's shareable.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not, we don't want to do this forever. Steve doesn't want to keep working until he's 70.
Mhm.
And we have, we have things that we'd like to do. And so within probably the next 5 years, we're trying to grow it to the point where we get an offer that we don't walk away from.
Mm-hmm.
That's what our goal is now.
Would you, because I think about these things here as well. And if you're listening to this podcast, this is probably only interesting to you if you're a business owner, but I think about these things now a lot. Um, I'm still a little further behind my career than you guys are, but we're growing. And I had an offer this last year that I also turned down. And it was a decent offer, but I looked at it and it's like, I don't want to be done. But I know there's going to be a point in time to where even when I want to say be done with the everyday leading from like a CEO position, good, bad, or indifferent, I don't want to be done with this thing making me money. So, I mean, I think about this a lot. And one of the things that I've even started toying with was the idea of taking our company and breaking it up into shares that are bite sizable enough that our current team members could start purchasing into it, or even the proper investor that I got a lot of belief in, so that I could eventually whittle down my percentage by selling it off, but still keeping a big enough chunk of it that this thing just continues to turn cash, and maybe then sell it to someone big, big, big down the road. I don't have all these things figured out, but one of the things that I have witnessed is that oftentimes when someone's in your shoes and someone wants to purchase you, there's two philosophies behind it. And my lawyer, Bill, told me that you better be happy with the money you get on day one, because you might not get any money on day two in a partnership. But at the same token, I've watched Alan, and his partnerships have been nothing but tremendous for him. They've continued to blossom. So have you guys thought about that in terms of, do you just want to be done with Steve and let it live on in someone else's hands? Do you want it to be something where you maintain a minority percentage? Have you gotten that far yet?
We've considered both of those. In fact, the last prospective investor gave us options for what a cash out would look like, or maintaining ownership and growing it. And it's getting close enough to the horizon where maintaining a portion of ownership and directing growth with growth fueled by capital doesn't really appeal to me. That sounds like, okay, we've been on a roller coaster for 15 years, and now we're going to be on one that's bigger and faster and more driven than ever. And that just doesn't sound appealing to me. I would rather refine and package this business, increase our revenue while maintaining a high double-digit profitability, and then hand it off.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'd ever miss it.
Mm-hmm.
I right now, the things that drive me are completely different from what drove me 15 years ago. 15 years ago, it was the need for income and security for my family. And now I can genuinely tell everyone around me that what drives me now is the prosperity of my people, and
Mm-hmm.
my people are my employees. I have enough. I know that whatever I want to do, whatever thing I need, whatever my children need, whatever Rachel wants or needs, we can supply those things. And there's always plenty to do that. What satisfies me now is being able to make a genuine promise to my employees that I can make their lives better.
Mm-hmm.
I promise my technicians that over the next 10 years, they will each earn more than $1 million in compensation. And if they save a percentage of that, then they don't have to be considering retirement in their 70s or 80s. They consider retirement in their 50s and 60s. So we provide them the best platform for success that is currently available in this country. They have the best uniforms, equipment, marketing procedures, reputation that we've established over 25 years. And based on that, they can earn generous six-figure incomes, fully benefited, insurance benefits, investment benefits, vacation benefits. They can have a secure life without ever taking the risks that Rachel and I have shouldered. I've seen my employees have children, seen my employees purchase homes. I know which of my employees currently take advantage of our Roth IRA contribution and savings. And we encourage those things. We're counseling them the same way that you counsel your children in savings and investment and personal growth. And we mentor them. So while I cannot perform the same way in the field that I did when I began this 44 years ago, I can certainly mentor my men to improve their efficiency and their revenue in the field.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my satisfaction comes from now, is seeing these people genuinely improve. And that's what moves me every day. And I know that by moving them forward, I'm moving Steve's Plumbing forward.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not thinking about revenue for Steve's Plumbing anymore. I'm thinking about increasing the opportunities for each of my people, and focusing on that employee-driven model is helping us to achieve our goals more successfully than ever at any point in our history.
You know, I'm listening and I'm thinking about like what are the lessons to unpack there, and obviously there are many. I think one of the lessons, and again, I never know who's going to be listening to this, but I'm imagining there's probably someone that is like you guys were back in 95 to '06. I just got to take care of my family. Holy smokes. That's where I was at the start of this. It was literally like, can I make enough money this year uh, to just take care of this young family? Does this make sense? And then you begin to transition. You begin to get to a point, and I don't know that I would call it a luxury, but it might be a luxury to where you're like, okay, now I can think on a higher level. What does this do for my people? But then the other big takeaway that I really wish everyone would hear, because I think social media has messed up our minds. There's so many plumbing companies and air conditioning companies that are doing things because it looks cool, but it's for the most part, for most of us that are in this business, we're not going to run a $20 million business or a 50 million or $100 million business. And we're probably, I mean, some of us can do that, but I mean, frankly, most of the markets won't even support a $50 million business. You've got to be in a pretty big market just for that. But even if you are, odds are pretty good that you're probably going to run a multi-million-dollar business that can be very profitable. But I think it's really important that everyone decides, like, what does success look like, and not base it exclusively on a revenue mark, because it is a dangerous trap of unhappiness. I've seen so many people be miserable. Like, what are you miserable about? Well, our business is only doing 2 million at 15%. What's the size of your marketplace? 80,000 people. What are you unhappy about? Well, that guy's doing 20. Where does he live? San Antonio. It's like, that's no comparison. What are you happy? You know, and I can tell you guys, one of the biggest reasons why I said no was that part of that vision of that other company was, we're going to buy you, and then you're going to buy all these other training companies, and you're going to run around and get them big. And I went, no, I'm not. My daughter is 10 and my boy is 7. I'm going to be at home until they leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Go get someone else to do that. And also the FOMO, right, Rachel? Everyone thinks that if they don't take this opportunity, there won't be another one.
Yeah.
I'm 42, and in my short lifetime, there's been 3 major acquisitions since I've been in the trades, and I got in the trades young. But that's like a major acquisition event every 6 to 7 years. History would say there's probably going to be a major acquisition event every 6 to 7 years. We're going through one now. You don't get on this train, don't sweat it. It'll happen in 6 or 7 more years. There'll be another opportunity to sell for big bucks. Chill out, you know? So I think there's a lot of wisdom there for sure. For sure. Well, Rachel, you're younger than Steve. He's the old man of the group.
Sure.
I love you, brother. Just playing. What about you? Give us some more insights on you.
What do you mean? What do you want?
I don't know even. I just was hoping that you just start talking and just whatever it's come out, I'm sure it's going to be gold.
Just full of wisdom. That would be Steve.
Yeah, Steve is pretty smart. You are too, though.
Tell them about difference in life now.
Yeah.
The freedom that we each have to focus on ourselves.
Yeah, that is a big deal for me. I've always prioritized fitness, that, but it was harder when the kids were younger, obviously, because I had 2 young people always and ferrying them around from events and whatever. But and it's something that I still have to force myself not to feel guilty about, because I spend my mornings at home in the gym, either in the garage gym or I go over to CrossFit. But I always felt like I needed to make up a reason why I was coming in so late every day, until I realized I've been working so hard since my kids were born,
Right.
running a business and trying to keep everybody healthy. And so this has just become our priority, because I don't have to wear all the hats anymore. I have 2 full-time CSRs and 2 part-time CSRs. Ashley is a huge help to me now, and I'm teaching her more and more things that she's assisting me with so that I have more freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So I do spend my mornings taking care of myself, and the family too. So, I get all of my errands done in the morning, so I don't have to spend my weekends working and trying to get all those things done. So we can really spend more time together, which is great. And we travel a lot more now too.
You guys do. It's
which
good.
is really, it's great. And I try not to feel guilty about that, but it's hard because it's just kind of worked into, that's what we're supposed to feel. We're supposed to feel guilty for leaving and for taking that break. But man, if we didn't take these breaks, they would kick us out and they would not want us around, because we're so much better at everything that we do because we take the breaks and we prioritize ourselves.
100%. Okay, so I'm going to unpack what you said, just like I did with Steve, because there's several amazing points of wisdom in there. And the first thing that I want to do is talk about is taking time off. And I'll share with you why I want to unpack that, because I see 2 things in businesses, maybe 3, related to time off. One of which is the business owner that is like never around. And when I mean like never around, they like took time off because that's what they wanted to do, but they did it before they had anything in place. And that is terrible. That's not you guys, right? So that's not what you're doing. But I know businesses that are doing that, and every year you can just watch them get a little smaller, and they're not training the person to replace them. And it's like, I know you're tired, but you still haven't put a leadership person in place. You got to do that. You guys are doing that with Phil. You're doing that with Ashley. You're doing that with others. That's good. The second part of this is all contractors work extremely hard. Every entrepreneur in the beginning works extremely hard. But there has to get to a point when you grow this team that you start taking time off, because you say, well, I feel guilty about that. I get that too. I feel guilty about it too. But I've got 4 weeks off. Shannon and I got 4 weeks off scheduled for this year. 2 of them are back to back. Next year, we plan on having a solid month off. And that's going to be hard to do. Like a solid month off back to back, like a sabbatical. It's
Great.
been 10 years. It's time to do that. Um, and you shouldn't feel guilty for it. In all sincerity, it should be a sign of your growth of leadership and how you trust your people. You're not checking out of your business. You're recharging your battery for your business. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Because you can't constantly burn the candle at both ends. And if I were to cite another mutual friend of ours, it's Alan. The more successful Alan has become, the more personal time that man takes. And it's so self-evident. He's gone a lot, and that hasn't hindered his success. It's just he just keeps growing. So yeah, I think that everybody wants to have more personal time. And we had Kerry, he did a little survey of all the clients that have been with him for 3 years. And one of the things that he found, I thought this was cool, is 87% of his business owners have taken more time since they've started getting their things organized. Because it's like, oh, life is short. Life is short. And when business is good and money is growing, time is decreasing. So you kind of have these overlapping lines. It's like, oh wow, I used to be a time billionaire and I'm not anymore. So yeah, you should enjoy it. And I think there's a great lesson there. So we could probably continue to talk on forever. I think what's amazing here, and you guys told about the early starts, and that's awesome. But just so everybody knows, I know the Steve's Plumbing where they wake up one morning and a truck's like off in a ditch somewhere in Everett, Washington, and how did it get there, and why did he quit? And I guess we better go pull it out with a right. And now today, you guys don't have those issues, and you've got between two guys, they're doing $1 million, and we all know that success is contagious. Next year, you'll have 3 or 4 guys that'll do 2 million between the two of them, and it'll just keep on going. So, thanks, guys. It's awesome. While it's fresh on my mind, Brandon's going to be here tomorrow. And I'm going to say to Brandon, how many years did you say? 4 to 5?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, Brandon, we've only got 4 to 5 years. Let's put the plan in writing. Let's make it an awesome 4 or 5 years. Let them go out with a huge, ginormous bang. Because the referral machine that is Steve and Rachel is going to be in Hawaii in a couple of years. And by the way, thank you guys so much. You guys have helped us out, and we really appreciate absolutely everything you do for us. So thank you. Really love you guys.
Both ways.
Take care,
Thank
friend.
you.
All right, guys. We'll talk to y'all soon.
Love you.
Bye, guys.